Good evening. My name is Diaz, and I have spent the past decade advocating for the rights of terminally ill individuals to have an end-of-life experience that is aligned with their wishes. I am pleased to be here with all of you, honoring heroes of the movement. I am, of course, very partial to one of those individuals, my hero, my wife, Brittany Maynard. Brittany would feel a great sense of pride in the impact her contributions and her story have made on this movement. But on a few occasions before she died, Brittany posed this question: why me? Why does my story get so much attention when there are so many other individuals and family members that have worked on this issue? Obviously, the media and the rest of the nation became very intrigued of the story of a determined 29-year-old woman taking back that little bit of control from that brain tumor just to ensure a gentle death. But I just want to emphasize that Brittany was keenly aware of the hundreds of the thousands of heroes that have put their heart and soul into advancing this cause. 5 people is a very small number when you consider how many heroes have worked within this movement as a volunteer, an advocate, a storyteller, a donor, a fundraiser, or maybe this is their career or life's work. Each and every one of those heroes, as well as all the people watching this, are heroes to me. So thank you. At the age of 42, Dustin Hankinson died at his home in Lolo, Montana in 2017. When he was a teenager, Dustin was diagnosed with Duchenne's muscular dystrophy, leaving him in a wheelchair and later reliant on a ventilator. Dustin became an advocate, fighting for justice for people living with disabilities. For nearly a decade, Dustin also advocated for end-of-life choice, fighting to authorize aid in dying in Montana. He became a public face for the end-of-life choice movement in the state and nationwide, blogging, writing op-eds, testifying, and lobbying his legislators. He argued, it's not about people with disabilities. It's about people who have a terminal illness. It's your life, your pain, your treatment, your death. It's your choice. He left a final request: spread compassion, love, and kindness whenever and wherever you can. Be kind to one another. Peace out, D. In 2020, we lost a beloved ally, supporter, advocate, and personal friend to me, Dr. Omega Silva. Dr. Silva taught and practiced medicine in the DC area for over 50 years. I'll share Dr. Silva's own words. Contrary to claims by medical aid in dying opponents, I know from decades of experience as an internist and endocrinologist that for all its wonders, modern medicine cannot relieve suffering at the end of life in every single case. I am an African-American physician who is living with 3 cancer diagnoses. I love life, cherish my family, and want to live as long as possible. I have endured multiple rounds of chemo, and it's extremely important for me to have access to all of my end-of-life care options. Dr. Silva was an ardent, early supporter and member of the Compassion and Choices African American Leadership Council and was instrumental in our campaign to pass DC's Death with Dignity Act, which became law in 2017. Born December 14, 1936, died April 2, 2020. Dr. Silva utilized medical aid in dying in DC to experience a gentle death, a pioneer throughout her life and career. I was proud to work alongside her back in 2017 to get the DC legislation passed. Filmmaker and activist Barbara Hammer died in 2016 after a 12-year battle with ovarian cancer. She joined with Compassion and Choices to fight for the option of medical aid in dying in her home state of New York. Barbara endured more than 100 chemo treatments before she entered hospice. Barbara was an acclaimed feminist filmmaker and pioneer of queer cinema who created more than 100 films on widely diverse topics. She and her partner, Flory Burke, advocated with the New York State Legislature for medical aid in dying. Barbara did multiple local interviews during her last month of life to urge the New York legislature to pass the Medical Aid in Dying Act. She also invited Compassion and Choices to her home to film a video urging lawmakers to pass the bill. I would so much like to be able to manage my own death by choosing the time and the person I'd like to have with me, so that I can die in comfort and with compassion, and not in pain and morphine drugged," she said. All of us, regardless of what we believe, deserve to die in a way that is consistent with our beliefs. My strong belief is in autonomy at the end. Jaron Ducker died in 2018. Jaron served as a Compassion and Choices board member for 6 years. In 2016, with great courage, Jaron became a petitioner for the ballot measure to authorize medical aid in dying in Colorado. She was the secretary of the Yes on Colorado End of Life Option Act committee. Jaron worked tirelessly over months to support the campaign's efforts, governing the committee, collecting signatures, and speaking with groups about why she felt this option was so crucial. Her courage and resolve contributed to the passage of the Colorado End of Life Option Act. This law provides peace of mind to Coloradans with a terminal prognosis and helps prevent needless suffering. Dr. Peter Goodwin died in 2012. Known for his advocacy for terminally ill patients, Dr. Goodwin was one of the driving forces behind the Oregon Death with Dignity Act. In 1994, voters approved the measure, but it was not official until 1997. Dr. Goodwin was the medical advisor of Compassion and Choices of Oregon during the Act's implementation. In 2006, he was diagnosed with a terminal illness called corticobasal degeneration, which can impact movement, memory, vision, speaking, and swallowing, and more. Dr. Goodwin chose to utilize Oregon's aid in dying law to end his suffering. Finally, my wife, Brittany Maynard. Unlike the other 4 heroes whose stories I just shared, I knew Brittany long before she got sick, before 12 million people viewed her video on YouTube, before millions saw her on the cover of People magazine or on CNN, on morning shows, the evening news, or all of the other places the media decided to splash up her image. Brittany did not set out to be the face of this movement. That label is something the media put upon her. Brittany's goal in making that first video was to get the attention of lawmakers so they would pass legislation so that no one else would ever have to leave their home like we did. She knew her time was limited, but with the remaining few weeks of her life, she said, "Okay, I'll do what I can with the time I have left." Brittany, along with Dustin Hankinson, Dr. Omega Silva, Barbara Hammer, Jaron Ducker, and Dr. Peter Goodwin, are all heroes who have left their indelible mark on this movement, and for that I am grateful. But I will conclude by thanking the multitude of heroes, each and every one of them who has impacted this movement. An enormous thank you to them and the family members who continue to honor their loved ones.